Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Sigma podcast, where today we're meeting Pauline Saliba again to discuss and hopefully conclude our discussion on money laundering. Pauline, thank you once again for having accepted our invite. We've touched on many different aspects of what the National Coordinating Committee does. What we haven't done is gone back a bit in time, which is what led to Malta getting greylisted, what led to then having the NCC getting involved in coordinating the work which was required to get us off the grey list, and how did we get off the grey list. So first part is what led us to getting on the grey list.
I hope we succeed in discussing the first part. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. I think it's very good that we have to our followers as well an insight of AML, so it's very much appreciated. So let me start with the first part. So how did we end up on the grey list? And I'm going to answer this strictly speaking from the technical side of view, from not a speculative point of view. Basically, you said grey list. So when you talk about grey list, there's involved the FATF.
The FATF, Financial Action Task.
Exactly. So for the benefit of our followers, just to clarify, so we ended, when we were grey listed, that was the 5th round of evaluations. Now we are into the 6th round. So first and foremost,
Let's not jump the gun, because that's another question I have for you. So let's go. How did we get grey listed?
On the 5th round, which is when Malta was grey listed. So basically, we would be under Manival. That's the first clarification I want to make.
What is Manival?
So FATF is the Financial Action Task Force. The international body set very simply about AML, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, counter-proliferation financing. FATF relies heavily on what are called the FATF-style regional bodies. They are the FSRBs. Manival is one of them. Manival is by the Council of Europe, and its role is to ensure there is compliance with the rules set by the FATF, as well as international obligations and the EU directives. But that's a general overview. So
Manival is an extension of the Council of Europe, is part of the Council.
It's a part of the Council of Europe. It's a committee of experts that are entrusted with this role. Okay. Now, we started the evaluation.
When you say a committee of experts, how big is this committee? How small is this committee?
There are a number of countries that are part of Manival, not only EU countries, but other EU countries. For example, Israel would be also assessed by Manival as well. So basically it's EU countries, but additional, so it's quite a large body.
Okay.
And we started the 5th round of evaluations being assessed by Manival. So that's the first emphasis I need to make. We had the evaluation in 2018. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about evaluation, there I need to talk a bit technical.
So 2018, that would be now over 6 years ago.
Yes, but that's how it led to the 2021 grey listing. So it's important that we do this.
So it's a 3-year process?
No.
It was a 3 year.
It was, but not necessarily. So basically we started in 2018. 2018, we submitted the reports. There was an on-site visit. When I say submitted the reports, I was not part of it. NCC was there.
And when you say reports, what sort of reports?
So basically you have to submit updates with regards to the technical, compliance and the effectiveness. When we talk about technical, there's a bit of a technical aspect in its own terms. There are 40 FATF recommendations. So since we're talking about gaming, so for example, you would have one of the recommendations would be recommendation 22. It's about the NFBP's due diligence. The NFBPs are designated non-financial business professionals. Gaming would fall there. There would be real estate, notaries also. There is also, for example, recommendation 28, which is on the regulation and supervision of these NFBPs. So the technical aspect, there are other aspects. For example, recommendation 20 is on suspicious transaction reports. These are all the 40. There's much more. And then you have also to report on the effectiveness, which are the immediate outcomes. They relate to the recommendation, so they are not separate. Why? For example, if I stick to the old methodology, gaming would have been assessed under immediate outcome 3. Okay. So immediate outcome 3 is supervision. There's a new methodology. In the past, under the 5th round, it was immediate outcome 3, supervision of the financial, virtual assets, and the designated non-financial. Okay. So there would be gaming. Now, when we talk about these immediate outcomes, there are 11, and they relate to the recommendations as well.
Okay.
So if we talk about immediate outcome 3, which is supervision,
okay,
it relates to these recommendations Good. Also. Now,
you've really given us a broad technical view of
it
all
is
this.
A bit, yes.
But at the end of the day, there were 40 FATF recommendations.
Yes.
Of which Malta, can I use the word failed?
I wouldn't use fail.
So
Why?
what word can
Because
use?
Basically in 2018 we had the on-site, we submitted all the reports. So when we say we submitted again on these technical aspects and effectiveness, for example on effectiveness, you have to go back 5 years. So not only report that year, but what happened in the previous years also. Okay. So basically then in 2019 the mutual evaluation report was adopted, and rather than failed, there were some follow-up issues. So on the technical,
how many?
That's in line with the rules of procedures. On the technical, if you have 8 or more, if you have 8 or more that are non-compliant or partially compliant, and I will emphasize the ratings, then you go into enhanced follow-up. So when we talk about technical, you can get ratings from compliant, largely compliant, partially, non or not applicable.
Okay.
With regards to effectiveness, you can get a high, a substantial, a moderate, and a low.
Okay.
So on the technical, we got 9 partially compliant.
9 partially
yes,
compliant.
One of them was, for example, recommendation 28. We were partially compliant as well on the regulation and supervision of the NFBPs for short. And I will explain a bit why as well. So,
but that does not mean we were partially compliant on the supervision of gaming per se, because it's not just gaming in recommendation 28.
So in fact, in recommendation 28, it was other aspects mainly.
What does it include? Real estate,
notaries? For example, there an issue was with regards to the fact that we didn't have the real estate licensing board at that time.
Okay.
So there would be no one that carries out.
Because I remember at the time the MGA had said that from its perspective, it was compliant with what the rules were establishing.
Yes, if I may, there was one aspect in the technical compliance that the MGA was not compliant with, but now it's addressed, and I will tell you why as well. It was in relation to recommendation 24, which is actually on the transparency of beneficial ownership, and it was a criterion because...
But wait.
1 second, let me finish the argument.
No, you're mentioning beneficial ownership. Yeah. Beneficial ownership was not the responsibility of the MGA, it was the responsibility of the MFSA. If you give me a second,
every recommendation has criterions to make it more difficult. So recommendation 24 had a criterion 24.5 that highlights that we need to monitor the quality of assistance given and provided. And we didn't monitor that. So MGA was one of the authorities.
But wait a sec. You mentioned UBO.
It's a criterion that falls under this recommendation.
But the UBO owner, the UBO, ultimate UBO, actually then we addressed it because MFSA had to address it. You had to register the UBO at the MFSA.
So recommendation 24 at that point in time was PC, partially compliant. We did not address it.
No, we addressed it after.
But recommendation 24 has a number of criterions. One of them is this, that we need to monitor the quality of assistance provided, which Malta did not. Not only MGA, the other authorities as well. Law enforcement and supervisory. It's a criterion under this specific recommendation. And because to continue the whole aspect. So that was one minor aspect where the MGA was criticized, which we addressed. Why? Because move back to when I said we had 9 partially compliant, we went into enhanced follow-up.
Yes.
What does it mean? That we had to report within 1 year on those 9 partially compliant, which we did. So this is the technical aspect.
We did not.
1 second. So that was November 2019. October 2020, we submitted an update on these 9 partially compliant. Then April 2021, we passed everything with flying colors because we got largely compliant and compliant in all these 9. In fact, we were, along with another EU country, only the 2 countries within Manival, so within that had everything largely compliant and compliant. That was the technical though, because then there is the supervision, there's the effectiveness. So can I go to the back in 2019?
Okay, so you're saying, I try and simplify as well.
Yes, please.
That at the end of the day, you are judged on 2 bases.
Yes.
Technical
and
supervisory.
Effectiveness. Let's say effectiveness, not only supervisor.
Effectiveness stroke supervisory. Even I can. So you've got these 2 options. You've got these 2.
Yes.
On the technical, notwithstanding we had 9 partially compliant.
Yes.
By the end of
it
the
was
process,
April 2021, yes.
we had fixed that situation.
Totally.
Which puts supervisory right in the center.
Supervisor is one aspect of effectiveness.
Supervisory effectiveness.
Yes.
So what happened there then?
There, on the aspect of effectiveness, the 11 chapters, immediate outcomes, we only passed 2.
2 out of 11?
Yes, we had 2 high. Only 2 high in immediate outcome 2 and immediate outcome 11. So the others were moderate or low. We had 3 lows.
Can you give examples? The lows, what were they?
One of them was immediate outcome 3, which is supervision. But, as you said, when we focus on gaming was given a lot of credit, if I dare say so. Why? Because gaming was assessed under immediate outcome 3. And, for example, so like we have criterions in the technical, we have core issues in the effectiveness. And one of the core issues under immediate outcome 3 is the first one, the old methodology, because under the new methodology, gaming will be assessed on its own, the NFVP is on its own.
Okay.
Now, under the old methodology, the first criterion of recommendation 3, immediate outcome 3, is that you have licensing and regulation preventing criminals and their associates from infiltrating the market, which gaming was really, I'm saying from a Pauline point of view, and this is actually all available online because you can download the report, was praised for it. In fact, there are even statistics. If I remember correctly, one of the statistics quoted are the withdrawal and refusal rates, where, for example, MGA 2014-2015, the refusal rate and the withdrawal was always 0%, and then 2016 we had 16% refused or withdrawn, and 2017 it increased to 18%.
Okay.
And not only that, because the importance of having MGA was also that with regards to illegal gaming, which is an important aspect, there were 37 ongoing prosecutions. So that shows that MGA was cooperating with the police. There was with the law enforcement a whole...
there was a structure in place which was working.
So that was very good. And also there were 3 convictions, which is also very good. If I may, there was a shortcoming, which you mentioned. So, because at the end of the day, we got a low in immediate outcome 3. So the thing was, at the time of the assessment in 2019, there was a major overhaul in supervision, not only MGA, but in all the authorities. And the assessment team that came over from Manival, the committee of experts, they criticized Malta because Malta did not present a procedure document which relates...
Procedure on what?
So the procedure, how the risk ratings that MGA is giving, the FIU is giving, how the risk ratings actually cross-refer to the frequency, scope and intensity of the on-site and off-site inspections. So it was like we're doing everything ad hoc, not related, so not documented, no procedure. That was a drawback. So this is the criticism that there was on the MGA. But on the other end...
so we have concluded, black on white,
yes. So
MGA at no moment were at fault in what happened, and gaming. So MGA and the gaming community were not at fault for what happened vis-a-vis Malta getting greylisted. If you can, please. If you can't, I understand. In your opinion, what led us to getting greylisted?
So, Mana, then as Pauline, and also strictly speaking to the procedure, since we had only 2 highs, and the rest low or moderate.
What were the 2 highs in?
The 2 highs we had international cooperation and also the proliferation financing.
Okay.
So these we did well. The lows, they were on supervision, on investigations and prosecutions, money laundering, and confiscation. So then, because we had these, we ended up...
You're going to touch one of my favorite subjects, but let's carry on.
It's gaming, you know?
No.
We ended up...
Confiscation means Asset Recovery Bureau.
Not necessarily... So, finger pointing is...
I'm not finger pointing. To me, confiscation means Asset Recovery Bureau.
But now we are... So let me first finish the process. So...
And hope that we end up 20 minutes so that
No.
You're answering me on ARB.
Yes, of course. Well, basically, 1 second. So then we ended up have to be assessed by the FATF International Cooperation Review Group. So I would like to emphasize, exactly. So when we say grey listing, it's not the actual word. The actual word is under FATF increased monitoring. And that is important because when we were sent under the FATF ICRG for short, it's being closely monitored by FATF because we need substantial progress. So till then we were not under increased monitoring. So we had to submit a post-observation period progress report, POPR for short. We submitted that in March 19th, St. Joseph Feast. We had 58 recommendations to address. The ICRG in June 2021 concluded that we did a lot, but we did not do enough in 2 areas, which were not the ones we got alone. They were immediate outcome 5 on beneficial ownership and immediate outcome 6, the use of financial intelligence. So, strictly speaking, we did better in the low ones than in the ones which we had a moderate.
The use of financial intelligence insofar as investigations?
It was, yes, linked. Why? Because a key word in the action plan, because then in June 2021, we went under increased monitoring, so no longer closely, but increased, the grey list, and we had an action plan. The action plan was on immediate outcome 5 to continue, so there was the word to continue, which encourages you, to continue showing accuracy in the register of BO, and also to have dissuasive, effective, proportionate sanctions on when such concealment or disguise is made clear, and the use of financial intelligence in immediate outcome 6 in line with the country's risk. So that's why from Pauline, as an NCC as well, we always emphasize on having a good risk understanding, because FATF asked us way back in 2021 to show an enhanced use of FI, of a financial intelligence, in line with the country's risk, so tax crime. Because in the previous iteration of the NRA, we said that tax evasion is one of the highest risks. So we had to show that there is enhanced use of financial intelligence in criminal tax investigations, and also emphasize a delineation of the roles, because it was not clear who is doing what. Which is why I go back to your question. It's important that we don't think in silos. So not only asset recovery, but what are the others doing? Because if you see financial intelligence, immediately you would say FIU. No, it was a much more complex action point, if I dare say so.
Coming back to my question, in our asset recovery, is anything going on over there?
So first of all, it was not one of the points where we got grey listed, but yes, we are doing a lot. So that is the grey list. So now the grey list is addressed. Why? Because for the benefit of our followers, who doesn't know, we are out of the grey list.
Yes, we were on it for a year.
We were on it for a year, and I think we learned a lot, especially specifically on this topic with regards to ARBY. First and foremost, we do not have to think in silos. So yes, of course, immediate outcome 8 is confiscation. So you might say it's solely asset recovery. There are other aspects. So, for example, even if we think, so let's leave aside 1 second the ARB. If we think immediate outcome 8 has other core issues, for example, even the cash that is seized by customs borders, it is very important because it also is included in immediate outcome 8. For example, if you
when you read in the press that someone has been caught with more than 10,000 euros in
yes,
cash.
declared or undeclared. So that's very important. And also then it ripples down to the other immediate outcomes. How many of that is leading to a money laundering investigation? Or into TF, for example, terrorism. So it's
That,
problem.
you mentioned terrorism financing. Was there any flags raised on terrorism financing in the reports, in the multitude of reports that led to us getting greylisted?
So in 2019, in the mutual evaluation report, I think always as Pauline, what we did wrong was they stated that our residual risk is considered in the national risk assessment, in the previous one, 2018, is considered to be medium. But to be extra cautious, given our geographical position, Malta said that it is medium high. I think that put us in a difficult position because
We wrote that ourselves.
he has to be extra cautious. So basically, when
Don't you think maybe we shot ourselves a bit in the foot there?
that's as Pauline, I think yes, because when you present a medium high residual risk, then you need to present additional cases.
Okay.
If you read the 2019 mutual evaluation report, which I encourage our followers to do so, control F, risk, in line with risk, commensurate with risk, you would find a number of these aspects because every action that we take has to be in line with the risks. So basically, and on TF, I think we shot ourselves in the leg. But it was not the aspect that got us into the grey
No,
list.
it didn't.
However, given that we have no prosecutions with regard to TF, I think yes, we need to show, as we did in the NRA, that we're looking at every possible aspect.
Do we have the setup in place? But
I think we do. So basically, we went over and above this time. So after being grey-listed, in the strategy that we had in place, the national strategy, we came up also with a subcommittee whereby those cases that are deemed as having an element of TF are discussed between the entities. So there would be the security service, there would be the police, there would be the FIU. So there would be a focused discussion to assess whether there is an element of terrorism financing. There are some investigations, however, no prosecutions. So we're trying to assess every possible aspect, even on beneficial ownership. I mentioned this, I think, in the last session. Now maybe I'm forgetting. But even when we see the registry of the BOs, we saw how many have a nationality or residence that is linked to a TF high-risk jurisdiction. And there we will go, not we, I'm used to saying we. So basically, MBR would carry out a risk-based approach with regards to such entities.
okay. Two more questions.
Yes.
First one, it's more on technology. We've had on this podcast quite a few people coming to talk about AI.
Which I found very interesting, and I hope you do more about them.
Last week, Minister of Finance Clyde Caruana, in a discussion organised by the Times of Malta, spoke about how AI is being used to catch tax evaders. Is there any way that the NCC or the anti-money laundering bodies can start making use of AI? Is there any exploration down towards this path? We're seeing it work in the Ministry of Finance.
Yes, and in fact, when you talk about that specific aspect, if I may, with regards to MTCA, the Tax and Customs Administration, we're going to hopefully use the results within the national risk assessment as well.
Okay.
So basically, whether the tax gap has narrowed, because why? Strictly speaking, in the previous iteration of the NRA, the 2023 one, we did not have perfect visibility on the tax gap. So hopefully now we do.
have it.
And when we talk about AI specifically, in the upcoming strategy, which is still going to be launched, we have specific action points. Not directly, strictly speaking, artificial intelligence. Why? I'm not an expert on AI. ChatGPT, I rarely use. I still rely on Pauline. I'm a bit... but yes, we have subcommittees. Why? To assess what can be used in order to enhance operations. So moving from OSINT to open source intelligence to more technical aspects. So that would not be Pauline. Pauline would set up the committee as NCC. But then you would have a FIU, you would have MFSA, bringing together their thoughts and see what works better. What works best for all the authorities. So yes, that is in the pipeline.
Okay. last question. So back in 2018, the process started which led to us getting greylisted.
Yes.
When will that process begin again?
Exactly. So now we are working. When you see Pauline's already getting tired. Why? Because now is a reporting year. Because most probably it was in the media as well. So most probably will be assessed again. There will be an evaluation 2027, 2028. So reminding what I said in the beginning, you go back 5 years, now is a reporting year, even last year. So what we're doing now,
we're compiling the reports.
What we're doing now is featuring in the statistics for
2027.
Exactly. So, and here I need to add a point, because you have an emphasis on asset recovery. What we're doing is, and I think it's a very good exercise, what we're doing is, as NCC, we created a template, because with asset recovery, if you try to compare the frozen assets with the confiscated, you're like comparing apples with oranges. Why? Because before we had a blanket freeze approach. So, and you cannot compare 2020 freezing with confiscation. So what we're doing is, and what we created a template. It's easy to create a template, but then there is asset recovery, there is MTCA tax, there is police, there is the office of the AG. Because we created a template, there is also the court services agency. We see the ended cases, how much was frozen, and how much did we end up with, and that shows the effectiveness rate. And there we can talk, are we good enough? What we need to do better? So this is the time to work on, and that's what we're doing right now. So basically we're preparing, yes, everyone is preparing. We're trying to not act in silos. So if there is a weak link in the chain, then let's act together.
The other links in that chain can help it.
Yes, and even, for example, when you mention asset recovery, detection of asset, use all possible aspects. So use of financial intelligence, what is happening. So there we can have better results.
Pauline, thank you so much.
Thank you again.
We overran slightly, but I'm sure it was worth it. It was a pleasure having you here. And in the meantime, if you like these podcasts and want to be kept up to date with what is going on, press that subscribe button, post notifications in order for you to be up to date with more podcasts that we will be publishing in the coming weeks. Thank you so much.